Hello, I'm Cynthia Myers-Morrison, and it's my pleasure to share some of my board of directors information with you. I have been on the board of directors for a number of years now, and I've given service as a vice chair for Food Addiction Institute. I've served on the lead position as the DSM committee chair. We completed an application and then learned that Ashley Gerhart was willing to write. So we were willing to step aside to allow her application to go in. And that will soon be happening or has already happened, depending on when you're hearing this. And I've been the webinar chair years gone by for when we were having webinars, and now the interview chair for Food Addiction Institute. I've been an active member of committees, the social media committee, and the longest time period for me, where Judy Wolf and I proofread and um, add to the writings for other staff members and board of directors members for social media around the world and all of our platforms. And I've also been on the bylaws committee and the website committee a couple of times previously with Elsie Camus, who was one of our workers previously, and more recently with Michael Prager and um, others who are on that committee working diligently now. In addition to that, I've served by going to the APA conference when Ashley Gerhart and several others were presenting, and um, our Volko was going to be a liaison there with that group. And it was a very interesting meeting, and we got to vote to say, yes, food addiction is real. And so that was good. And then to the International Food Addiction Consensus Conference that was last February in London. And at that meeting, to have the opportunity to hear the presenters and to be at the table for Food Addiction Institute. So I've done a lot of things and continue to be involved and continue to serve in whatever capacity I can at the time. A little bit about my story. Um, my story is one of a sort of average garden variety food addict. And I say I'm a food addict. I am an addict, and I am an addict to alcohol and drugs and cigarette smoking, to others behaviors, sex addiction, shopping addiction, the list clutter. There are a number of my addictions that I claim and that I own and that I have addressed in 53 years of being in recovery in various degrees at various times. So I have 53 years of sobriety, freedom from alcohol and drugs and recreational drugs. And I have 26 years of recovery from grains and sugar, all of which decimated my life, different parts of my lives. I have had a number of lives actually. So one of them prior to getting into recovery at all, and then one with recovery from alcohol and drugs, but not recovery from grains and sugar, which I found to be a problem for me because my body acts as a distillery and it actually does do the same things with grains and sugar as alcohol and drugs did in my brain and in my body, decimating a lot of relationships and work situations. And, so I've been intermittently successful in a number of things. I was English specialist for Olive Valley Unified School District at one time. So as you can see, I had successes. I was an educator that was well respected in LA Unified School District. I was an administrator in schools for a number of years. Um, and successfully and unsuccessfully, different things that worked well and different things that didn't work well. And usually the didn't work well were directly related to whether I was in the food or not. My first year of teaching when I was in alcohol and drugs as well. So um, I I came to realize that I was a food addict at the time that um, Esther Helga Gudmundsdottir, who has been a previous chairperson for Food Addiction Institute, invited me to come to the board of directors for FAI some years ago, before she was chair. And I was willing to do that. It was at a time that it matched my goals in terms of getting information out into the world about food addiction and about the effects of it, and that we need treatment. We need it to be in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual and in the International Classification of Diseases. This is a problem in our world. If we look around the world and we look at the people that surround us wherever we are, many and an increasing population are obese. If we look at the population descriptions in the United States and around the world over the last 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years, we'll notice an increasing number of people and percentages of people who are obese and overweight. And to a significant degree, some people say 15 to 20% of the entire population, people are food addicts, as designated by the Yale Food Addiction, Yale Food Addiction Scale, or by the sugar assessment that Bitten Johnson and Borja have created from the designated items for the substance use disorder in the DSM. And all of these things are things that are very important in terms of recovery, because if one is trying to, as I did, to get recovery from an addiction, but treating it as harmful use, one cannot be successful. I was not successful. I suffered. I gained weight while dieting. I gained weight while climbing Mount Whitney and walking a marathon and dieting that year. I had gained and then I had lost, which was my norm, 25 pounds that year. The next year, I stopped eating grains and sugar entirely, and I discarded 75 pounds in 7 months. So that is a measure of how extreme my own addiction with grains and sugar is. I needed to stop eating grains in order to ultimately let go of the sugar. And I have let go of both of those for now over 26 years. Very successfully and really, for the most part, very comfortably. Not early days, because going through withdrawal and going through the whole system of relearning procedural memory for everything in my life, it was challenging. I had used food for happy, sad, glad, mad, you name the emotion, the thought, the feeling. I had used food and food-like substances, because I don't even like to say, when we talk about ultra-processed foods, I don't prefer that term. I prefer the term ultra-processed substances. It is a substance use disorder, so it gets in there. But those are look-alike things. They're not food. They're not mine. They're not something that I put into my body to eat today. So these are things that I've learned over a number of years, very slowly, sometimes more slowly than I'd like. But getting rid of grains and sugar really made a tremendous difference. Made a tremendous difference, as I mentioned, with the weight on my body. My feet hurt less. My whole body stopped aching. I had aching joints, that my shoulders and my hands, my knees, my hips, my back, everything hurt all the time. And that was from inflammation, that with all of this extra weight that I was carrying. But in addition to that, I had colorful labels, labels that most of us don't want to have. And those labels were psychiatric labels that indicated that I was volatile, that I had mood swings, that I had depression and anxiety. And I understood the depression. I didn't see the highs because my highs were purchasing expensive, amounts of things. When I was making $8 an hour, for example, I'd go to a store and I'd spend $300. That was a lot of hours of pay that I was spending in one burst of or basket of things that I really didn't need. And I also was, my highs were sexual acting out. And so the sex addiction, the love addiction, the fantasy addiction, all of those were things that were part of that earlier part of my life. I've been in two relationships now, three husbands and a wife for 14 years in there too. And I have had two relationships, the 14-year relationship with a woman, and now a 25-year relationship with my husband, this husband. And so I've had long-term relationships and have grown in those relationships. And I've had the opportunity to gain a great deal of recovery through support groups that have supported my consistency, my repetitive working of recovery materials to gain skills that I didn't have previously. So all of that is to the good. That is to the good. It took me a long time, and I'm very grateful today for all of that. So I'm grateful to a higher power, the universe as I understand it, my connection with nature, with the world. And I love photography. I love being involved with other people who are addicts. I find it challenging to be with people who are eating disordered only and are not addicts also. There are many of us that are overlapping. I certainly was a binge eater in eating 2 hours at night very excessively, but binge eating disorder. But also, I am a food addict in that my volume consumption over, just wanting volume of anything, substance, is connected to oxytocin and my wanting warm hugs on the outside and on the inside. And we have that skin that goes from mouth to anus. So I wanted pressure against that skin. And that I did with food substances also. I love my life today. I serve in a variety of ways outside of Food Addiction Institute. I'm particularly interested now in getting families to eat real food that came from a garden, preferably theirs or someone nearby, and to spend time and energy together involved in play and joyful activity that is not necessarily food related, to sit at a table together as a family, to eat a meal. And that meal is colorful. I was involved with a group of food addiction professionals that wrote a book called We Eat Rainbows, has a rainbow on it and a bunch of animals, all of our animals that say eat rainbows of fruit, vegetables, proteins, and oils, excluding seed oils and things of that sort, focusing on avocado, olive oil, butter, ghee, MCT oil. So, and the rainbows of colors and all of those other things. I've really honed in on wanting to work with families to get preconception health so that 6 months prior to planning to get conception, that both parents would be healthy at a metabolic well-being that said, this is the time for our bodies to engage with each other to create this new being. And I want to work with people who do that. So that's one of the areas in which I work with people now who are already in food addiction and in food addiction recovery and ultra-processed substance use disorder recovery. And I want to support people, and I do. I support people around the world. So in doing that, And I also want to support younger people in getting help earlier to get to a healthy well-being with their partner prior to 6 months before conception, so that they are their best well-being to bring forth into the world healthy beings and avoid all of the carnage that is mental and physical, that comes from not being at that healthy weight, because then the methylation and the availability of the hormones for immediate use in fetal development in the placenta are not happening. They're not they're not happening at an optimal level. So that's my goal, is to get all of this information out into the world. And I see Food Addiction Institute as a means to do that, in addition to helping people realize that food addiction is real, that abstinence, staying away from our trigger foods and behaviors and substances, is essential to getting into and maintaining recovery consistently over time, and that extraordinary support, as Phil Wardell used to say, is necessary in order to attain and maintain a healthy lifestyle that will support well-being, metabolic, mental, physical, and spiritual, emotional. Thank you. Food Addiction Institute is a fabulous place. And if you want to join us, just let us know. Thank you.